channel. My name is Jer, and today I want to make a video about something that's very special to me. So anybody that knows me knows that a lot of the decisions that I've made in my lifetime are me walking by faith. A lot of faith-based decisions, like for example, buying my first house when I was 24, or applying for jobs that I wasn't qualified for. I was able to work on the set of a movie one time. I left my 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur. So in 2020, I bought this book, this leather book, and I call it my book of answered prayers. And the reason I bought this book is because I wanted something tangible that I could look back on, and I wanted something that would encourage me when I was down, or something that would lift me up and just help me to be grateful for the different times that God has answered prayers. And I wanted to record like different times that I had walked by faith and done things by faith. So I bought this book in 2020, and I went through and kind of just wrote down some things that had happened in the past, and I also write things down as they happen. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I love hearing stories about how other people have walked by faith, and that's why I purchased this book, because I want to be able to pass this down to like my grandchildren one day, so that they will be encouraged if they're praying for something. And sometimes I might be praying for an opportunity that's similar to something that I prayed for in the past, and I'll read through my book of answered prayers and it'll encourage me. Or I might be trying to do something new and I'm like, well, God is faithful. So if he did XYZ, then he can do, ABC. So that's why I have this book of answered prayers. And today I just want to share some of the stories and situations that I have written down in this book. So back in 2020, I had my real estate license, but I was still working at my 9 to 5. But expenses, I had just all different kinds of expenses coming from everywhere, and I needed some extra money. I had a closing, this was in October of 2020, and I had a closing that month, but I didn't want to use the money from my closing, and I didn't want to use the money that was in my savings account, but I needed an extra $600 that month. So I said that I prayed for $600 that would be outside of my regular paycheck and the commission check that I would be receiving. And I wrote that I don't usually ask for more than a couple $100s, and I had no clue how it was going to happen. So a couple weeks later, this was in October, I got a letter in the mail saying that I had an excess of $562 in my escrow account for my mortgage, and they would be sending me a check in the mail. So the letter was dated October 15th. I didn't open it until October 25th because I am so bad about opening up my mail. And on October 26th, I received the check in the mail, and a week before that, my dad had given me $50 just randomly. I didn't ask for it. He just gave me $50. So I asked for $600, and by the end of that month, I got $612. And that might not seem like a big deal to some people, but it was definitely a big deal to me, especially at that time, because even though I was doing real estate, but at that point, I was still trying to, sell houses consistently. So I was working my 9 to 5 and I was doing real estate, but I do not like dipping into my savings account. And I already knew where I wanted the other money I had to go. Like, I'm just really strict about my budget. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pray for the extra $600. And God answered my prayer. Another situation where I asked God for money was February 13th, 2021, and I asked him to bless me with an additional $2,000 aside from my commission checks for that month, and aside from my regular paychecks, and aside from my tax return or tax refund. So I prayed this because I wanted to get some new living room furniture, and I had been really wanting to get some new living room furniture, but I didn't really want to come out of pocket for it, because this is a side note. When I got my first house, so this can be another answered prayer. When I bought my house, I prayed that I would not have to buy anything for my new house. I prayed I wouldn't have to buy any new furniture, any new appliances, and that was an answered prayer because the people that sold the house to me gave me all of the appliances, and they are not required to give you the refrigerator, but they did give me the refrigerator, and they also gave me the washer and dryer. And so as a real estate agent now, I know that it's not very common for people to give you the washer and dryer, and if they do leave the washer and dryer, they usually try to charge you for it or sell it to you outside of the purchase price of the house. So they gave me all of the appliances and the washer and dryer for free. They left bar stools for me, and one of my close friends gave me an entire living room set for free. So she gave me the couch, the love seat, a chair, the end tables, the coffee table. She gave me a desk that I still use in my office. My mom gave me a dining room set. I mean, everything. I didn't have to pay for anything, but I was ready for some new furniture. So I prayed for $2,000 so that I can get some new furniture. That was on February 13th. On February 17th, I went to file my taxes, and I found out that I had oversaved. So when you're self-employed, you have to make sure that you're setting aside money so that you can pay your taxes. And some people don't do that, and they end up owing a lot more money than they were expecting because they were just spending the money. So I knew, like, every time I would get a commission check, I would put aside some money for my taxes. And I ended up over saving, and my accountant is amazing, but I had that extra $2,000 that I prayed for that I wasn't expecting. So I didn't receive an extra $2,000. I already had the $2,000, but I didn't have to pay it towards my taxes. I thought that I was gonna have to pay it towards my taxes, but it turns out that I didn't have to pay it towards my taxes. So that's how I got that $2,000. It was just sitting in one of my savings accounts. And this is one of my favorite stories. This is why I love what I get to do. On July 27th, 2021, one of my friends sent me a house that she really liked, and she wanted to put an offer in on it. But her lease wasn't up until October. So this is July, and her lease wasn't up until October, and she had already been pre-approved and everything. And she wanted me to ask the listing agent if the sellers would be willing to wait until October to close on the house. And because of the way the market was and they were ready to move, they said no, unfortunately. So that was July 27th. Somebody else ended up getting that house, and on August 31st, I was looking at the market. I checked the inventory multiple times a day. So on August 31st, I was looking to see, you know, what came available. And there was this beautiful house that came available. So I sent it to my friend. And then I realized that it was the same exact house that she had sent me before. Now, let me pause. This was, okay, so like a week before that, we had started actually looking at houses because it was, you know, it was August and her lease was up in October. So we started looking at houses, and we would look at like these beautiful houses that were in her price range, that were in the location that she wanted. But I could tell that she just didn't like them. Like, nothing was wrong with the house. It just wasn't it for her. So I sent her this house, and it was the same exact house that she had sent me in July. So we went to look at it an hour and a half later, and I said that I literally had chills walking through the house, and my friend was speechless, and she even cried. So we prayed in the house. I prayed with her and asked God to bless us with the house and to give us favor. And I think I also asked that they would pay her closing costs. But so when we left, I immediately called the listing agent. I was like, hey, do you remember me? But I called her, and I was telling her that we were going to submit an offer, and I explained that I was the person that had called her the month before, and she remembered me. And the listing agent, had been praying that God would send them the right buyer. Y'all. So there were 2 other offers that came in after hours, and they both offered more than we did. But our offer was accepted the next day, and they agreed to pay all of her closing costs. Now, this was 2021 when the market was crazy. There were multiple offer situations. Houses were being sold like the same day. People were buying houses without even looking inside the house. And so closing costs were pretty much, sellers weren't really wanting to pay closing costs because they didn't have to, but they paid all of her closing costs, which it was just unheard of at closing. They paid so much of her closing costs that she walked away from the closing table with a check. Like, they paid her closing costs and then some. So that was just, and the whole process was seamless, no hiccups, no issues with any type of inspections, anything. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but the house came back on the market because the other buyer, their financing fell through. And so that's how it came back on the market and we were able to get it. And I was like, wow, like, she had the desire for that house and God literally blessed her with that specific house and worked it out so that she could get that house. I was like, wow. Another story that I want to share that's not actually in my book, I have to write it. Back in 2015, I went to an event at my church and Caleb Castile played the main character in the movie Woodlawn, and he spoke to us there at that event. Acting and like writing, like screenwriting and being involved on movie sets is something that has always interested me. So I was intrigued to hear him talk about how he had prayed to be the main character in this movie Woodlawn, and somebody else was casted, but he wrote on his script that he was going to be the main character. He ended up being the what do you call it? It's like the understudy, like the backup actor, but he had a script, but he wrote on his script that he was going to get the main part. So y'all, the actor that they had hired to be the main character, something happened and he wasn't able to do it, so Caleb was able to be the main character. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I wrote down on a piece of paper, Lord, please do for me what you did for Caleb Castile and bless me to be able to work on the set of a movie. So that was 2015. 2016 rolls around and I am like connected to like different companies and they'll send me emails like, hey, we're looking for XYZ type of character, or we're looking for extra for this movie or this commercial. And sometimes I would like apply for it and I would even get the role. You know the movie Selma? I auditioned to be in the movie Selma and they accepted me and everything. And this was like 2014. And I was like, like, I don't really want to drive to Selma every single day for 2 weeks. I don't know what was wrong with me. Like, I do not know why I didn't do it. I was like, I'm going to have to take off work for 2 weeks. Childish. Like, when you're young, you don't think about how, like, you don't really know to cherish those opportunities. Anyway, so it's like November 2016 and I was going through my emails and I had missed an email about an audition for Black Panther, and they were looking for extras for Black Panther, and I was like, oh wow, this was the first Black Panther movie that came out a few years ago. I was like, oh my goodness, that would be amazing. I would love to be an extra. Okay, so it was November. They were looking for extras in October, and so I was a month late. I was like, you know what? Unless you ask, the answer is always no. That's what I said. So I sent in my photos, I sent in my information, that kind of thing. And y'all, in December, they called me like a couple weeks later. It might not even been a full 2 weeks. They called me and they were like, hey, we know that you auditioned to be an extra, but would you be open to being a stand-in for Denai Guerrero? I was like, yes. They're like, we would really love for you to come out. You know, it's in Atlanta. They're like, yeah, like we would love for you to come out and do light testing with us and just act as a stand-in. So I was a stand-in on Black Panther, y'all. A paid opportunity. So I drove to Atlanta and there were 2 other stand-ins there doing light tests that day. And one of the guys was telling me like, this is your first time being on set. And they were both saying that they had been acting as extras for years before they were ever a stand-in, before they ever did light testing. And I was like, wow, like this is such an amazing opportunity. And there were people that I was meeting that I didn't know who they were. Like, for example, Ryan Coogler came up to me and introduced himself like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And, you know, went about his business. And I was like, who is that? And they were like, that's Ryan Coogler. Like, he's the director. He was the director of Black Panther. Y'all, this just goes to show that, like, God will put you in places. Like, how did I skip the line, so to speak? Like, these guys were telling me that they had been acting as extras for years before they could be a stand-in. They were like, you haven't even been an extra yet, and you're a stand-in. Like, that's huge. So that was so fun. I did get to see Chadwick Boseman on set, but we were not allowed to take pictures. So for legal reasons, I did not take any pictures. None. But I didn't get to actually speak to him or have a conversation with him, but I did see him. And that was really cool. I also met some other really cool people who were a large part of the movie, but I don't know their names. Yeah, so that was such a fun experience. I would love to be able to do that again. Like, there's such a thrill of like being on set, and they have like all you can eat food, and like there are like cameras, and they were like rolling action. It was so cool. Like, that was one of the coolest experiences. And I was like, wow, like I asked God if I could work on the set of a movie having no experience whatsoever, even being an extra. And he blessed me to be a stand-in. Like, that's big. Like, I cannot even stress enough how big that is. So if anything, I hope that like me sharing these stories will encourage the people that are watching this to know that it does not matter if something looks impossible. It does not matter if you've never done something before, or if somebody in your family has never done something. If you're the only person that you know that wants to try something, if you want to get a job that you're not qualified for. I remember back in 2017, I was about to finish my bachelor's degree and I needed a job. And so in May of that year, I started applying for jobs, and there just wasn't anything coming available that I saw that really piqued my interest. So I started applying for jobs at places that I wasn't qualified for. And I was like, if I could just get my foot in the door, like if I could just get them to meet me, like I feel like I can get them to hire me. And that's exactly what happened. I had an interview in June of 2017, and I had applied for a job that I wasn't qualified for, and they said, well, we're not able to give you this job, we're sorry. That was like an hour after my interview. They said they weren't going to be able to give me a job. Like a day later, they called me and they were like, hey, so we weren't able to give you that job, but would you be interested in this position? And I was like, yes, I sure am. Like, just talking about stuff like this makes me so excited. Like, doing stuff by faith is something that I'm so passionate about, and it's like my biggest spiritual gift, and it's been that way since I was a little girl. And I realized when I was younger that I had a gift to believe in things that other people may see as like abnormal or impossible, but I believe that's a gift that God gave me so that I can walk by faith and live by faith, and I can share my experiences and be able to encourage other people to do the same. So this is part 1 of my book of answered prayers. It is like my own little personal version. It's like my book of the Bible, and I feel like every single person on this earth can have their own book of the Bible, because we all have like stories and miracles and answered prayers that we can share with other people that will encourage them. I hope that this video encourages you. I hope that this video inspires you to walk by faith. I definitely want to share more faith-based content. I have stories for days, okay? I have stories for days, and so I will be sharing more content soon. Thank you for watching, and if you think that this video will encourage someone, please make sure that you send it to them. Please make sure that you also give this video a like. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.